Hello Blazers, it is your boy Roman, your favorite neighborhood Russian. How you guys doing today? Welcome to a brand new video. And in today's video guys, we're gonna be trying out something new on this channel. Something that I decided to call Russian Q&A. Very original. Basically what it is that recently I went on Twitter, which you should follow by the way if you don't. And on my Twitter I asked you guys if you have any interesting questions about Russia that you want me to answer and to respond to and sort of give my experience, right? And I decided that I would respond to the most interesting questions in this video, and that's exactly what we're doing today. Without further ado, without any further discussion, let's get right into it. The first question I really liked. If you're abroad, by which I mean not Russia, what can someone say or do that instantly tips you off to know, oh, they're Russian too? Not speaking Russian either, like mannerism, etc. In general, guys, I would say just the face. It's usually the outfits, because Russian people, especially of the older generation, have a very specific way of dressing. A lot of them can't dress whatsoever. Especially like Russians that got rich but never really quite learned how to dress. Like if you go to Italy, you see these guys everywhere. They're dressed up all over in Gucci and Versace, but they look like garbage. And as well, yeah, you know, the face. Like so many times I've been walking down the streets in a foreign country and I've looked at a person and I was like, that guy's Russian. That guy's definitely Russian, right? And every single time I was correct. So I don't know how this works, but it just works. Is the Communist Party still relevant or no? There is a Communist Party in Russia. It's called KPRF, and it's in the Russian parliament. It's a part of the Russian government, so to say, but I would say it's very much irrelevant. First of all, nobody votes for the Communist Party except boomers. Even people that are socialists and communists from the younger generation, they do not vote for the Communist Party because they're just a bunch of old like hacks. The Communist Party claims to be in opposition to the Russian government, but it's really not, and it's part of the Russian government, so they're really just pretending to oppose the governments, and they're on the Kremlin paycheck. So I would say they're very, very much irrelevant, and it's definitely not the legacy that grandfather Lenin had wanted. This is a question I get all the time, and it's finally time to address it, okay? Russia doesn't really treat people who publicly criticize the state nicely. Aren't you a bit scared of the government coming for you one day, since you're a fairly big YouTuber? And here's the thing, people ask me about this all the time. People say that basically, oh, no fuck is you're gonna get killed by the KGB, you know, no fuck is you're gonna, you know, end up dead by suicide with 2 gunshots in the back of your head one day and stuff like that. And it's so really funny, all these comments about, you know, the KGB being on my ass. They're very original. I love them. But the thing is that I don't really consider myself being at risk because I don't really say anything that profound on this channel. The thing is, most of the things I say, like saying that the government's corrupt, is not really that much of a radical thing to say in Russia nowadays, you know what I mean? People say this stuff all the time, and saying that Russia doesn't really treat certain people well, like the LGBT or whatever, that's nothing radical. The only real way a YouTuber in Russia could actually get in trouble with the law by speaking his mind and being against the government if he does these things. First of all, if you actually invite people to come to demonstrations against the government that are illegal, which, well, they shouldn't be illegal, but you know, that's the way it is. If you invite people to demonstrations, if you actively engage it, if you actually partake in organizing these demonstrations, then you might actually have trouble with the law. Second of all, you might have trouble with the law if you actually expose some new facts about the corruption of political officials, and then you might have trouble. Then somebody might be like, bro, you said too much, you know what I mean? And third is insulting the feelings of religious people, which is like a law in Russia that basically prohibits you to criticize any religion. And I don't really touch on a topic of religion like ever, so this definitely doesn't really apply to me. And I'm gonna be honest, I do filter my language a lot. There's a lot of things that I would like to talk about on this channel. There's a lot of very messed up stuff that I know about and that I wish I could educate you guys on, but I can't, because that is actually some deep stuff that could get me in trouble. And I do have to police my language. I do have to not say certain things. I do have to think about what I'm posting online and what I'm uploading on this channel, what I'm talking about, because if I go too far, then that could have some repercussions for me. So I'm all for criticizing the governments or whatever, but I also value my own safety and I want to continue my life and I don't want to have any problems with the law, so I can't go too far. So I guess this is why I'm still fine and I'll continue to be. This is a funny question that is actually pretty smart. Why do so many Russians own cats instead of dogs? And this is absolutely true. I don't know why you know this if you're a foreigner, but yeah, that's true. I feel like people have more cats than dogs in Russia, and the thing is that because I believe that the reason is that we all live in the projects, we all live in commie blocks and these little flats, right? And when you live in a small flat, when there's not much room to run around or whatever, not much room period, it's really not good to have a dog in those conditions. Like, if you have actually your own house, if you live like in a suburban house with a backyard and everything, and you actually have your own little territory, then people usually get like big dogs. And but if a person lives like in the projects, like, you know, which is like 90% of the Russian population, and me as well, I live in the projects, you know, it's essentially you either could have a cat or a small dog, and it's obviously just more convenient to have a cat because it doesn't even have to go outside or anything. So, and it's pretty small, so this is the reason why. Basically, it's because we don't have the living space for it. Differences in culture and stereotypes between different regions, and are there any inter-regional, inter-city rivalries? This is a very good question because, yeah, you know, it's kind of like an American thing to have a rivalry, you know, LA versus New York. That is a real thing, and the thing is that in Russia, it doesn't really exist except for one exception, which is Moscow versus St. Petersburg. It's a never-ending rivalry, essentially, because, you know, St. Petersburg is considered to be like the second capital, the northern capital of Russia, and it used to be the capital of the Russian Empire. And so the two cities are always fighting for who's gonna be the most advanced and stuff like that. Of course, Moscow is winning because Moscow has all the money from all of the Russia in it. And people from St. Petersburg say that like Moscow is a polluted, crowded hellhole and stuff like that. People from Moscow are saying that St. Petersburg is like a swamp and not a city, that it's a complete shithole as well. And the banter never stops, essentially. But, you know, honestly, you know, it's not that serious. They still love each other because they couldn't exist without each other. They couldn't exist without hating each other. So I got this question a lot. The question is essentially, do people actually like Putin there? And the thing is that I would say yes, because people are like uneducated or whatever, just don't know the full picture. And, you know, they've been fed propaganda for tens of years at this point, for decades, right? But the thing is that I've noticed a little bit of a shift recently, which is really interesting. The thing is that, you know, the Russian government has implemented a new retirement plan, essentially. They basically moved the retirement age and they increased it. So now you have to, you know, work for even longer to get to retirement age. And a lot of people, that pissed off a lot of people. And, you know, the Russian government's and Putin's ratings have actually dropped significantly. And this is going to be purely anecdotal, but in my family, for example, like 2 or 3 years ago, all of my family members, like my grandfather, my grandmother, you know, people like on the older side of my family, they all were very, very pro-Putin. And we would always get in these arguments and they would hate on me for, you know, not supporting him and stuff like that. It was very heated. But now, 3 years later, they hate him. I don't know what happens, but they hate him. They hate his guts, okay? They keep on talking about how he's corrupt, how he's robbing the people, etc. They talk about all this stuff. And this is not even just my family. I see this happening all over the place. Like, I've been talking about this with my friends, and all of my friends say that the older people, their parents, their grandparents, other members of their family also switched, and they actually dislike him now. So, I'm not gonna say that everybody hates him now, but the amount of people that genuinely like him and love him as a president, it's dropped significantly, and there's a real shift happening right now. I don't know what it's gonna lead to, but it's definitely a very, very interesting observation nonetheless. So in Poland, people say that Russians politically hate Poland and view us as some sort of Slavic Eastern traitors or something. Is it true? I have a feeling we over-exaggerated when it comes to Russia. Also, do Russians think we're similar, or do they think we're just some Westerners? Oh yes, definitely. Russians have a huge hate bone against Poland, and I'm not talking about majority of Russians. The majority of Russians don't really care. I personally like Polish people, you know. I'd like to visit Poland. I think Poland is cool. And Poland is doing a lot better than Russia in terms of economics, so like shout outs to you guys, you fucking killing it. But yeah, Russian TV has had an anti-Polish propaganda bias for a very long time now. You know, on Russian TV they keep saying how Poland has never had any actual resistance in the World War II of its own, and that it's only the Soviet Union that saved Poland, and that Poland was like this state that couldn't do anything, and the Polish people who couldn't survive without the Russians or whatever. And of course the Soviet Union did help Poland a lot, but also there was a bunch of negative stuff, and the Soviets have did some terrible things to the Polish people, which Russia doesn't really like to discuss or acknowledge. And also I feel like Putin himself has a very huge hate bone against Poland, and he constantly keeps hating on Poland, and also constantly we get these shows on Russian TV discussing how Poland, you know, Poland sucks, they've betrayed us. Yes, they literally called them like Slavic traitors, like, I guess because Poland is part of the EU and, you know, is more westernized and doesn't want to be like Belarus or something. Yeah, it's really bizarre, but that's, yeah, usually like a Vatnik way to look at it, is that Poland is a traitor and they owe us something. Poland owes us absolutely nothing, and to be honest with you, if you guys want to take down Soviet monuments, I'm fine with it. I don't really give a fuck, okay? It's your country, you can do whatever you want. Wojska Gola. What countries does Russia consider friends? Basically any country that, you know, is spineless enough to not actually call us out on our bullshit. So, Ukraine is out of the question, not a friend of Russia. Other countries though, like Belarus, Kazakhstan, they're kind of Russia's puppet states, very much controlled by us, and you know, yeah, those are friends. You know, Russia is kind of like a manipulative boyfriend or something, you know, only if you obey to it 100% of the time, then you consider the friends. But if you try to have your own will for a little bit, like Ukraine for example, you're not a friend anymore, you're a traitor. It's pretty bad. Is it still normal for people to drink at the streets anytime? I wouldn't say it's normal, it's definitely frowned upon. When people see drunks on the streets, people always like, those fucking guys again, you know, that's kind of the reaction. But yeah, it's not normal really, and also Russia has laws that prevent you from drinking in public. That is actually forbidden in Russia, to drink in public and to smoke in public in places that you can smoke in, but that law doesn't really work, to be honest with you. Neither does the drinking one, everybody still drinks in public, so... But yeah, it's not as normal as it used to be, so in that regard, yeah, we are getting kind of better. How is the public transport? I would say it's really good in some of the biggest cities, some of the more developed cities. So for example, cities like Ekaterinburg, St. Petersburg, Moscow, etc. Moscow is like crazy advanced. It has buses that have air conditioning and Wi-Fi inside, which is like alien technology to my city, Chelyabinsk, for example, okay? In my city, public transport is straight up fucking abysmal. Not only do we not have proper bus stops or anything like that, like the infrastructure is just terrible, and because there's not enough buses in my city, not enough buses, not enough trams, not enough trolleys, basically what happens is that our public transport system is occupied by these things called marsrutka, which is like a route taxi. It's essentially like a micro bus, a mini bus, they're usually in terrible fucking condition, they're falling apart, they're driven by God knows who, they're illegal, they're straight up illegal, they're never properly registered, and because there's not enough buses, you have to take these things most of the time. They're terrible, they smell like shit, they're always dirty, they're very uncomfortable, there's literally not one redeeming quality about them. And we have to take them because there's no other way to get to my university, for example. Like, I literally cannot take a bus to get to my university because no buses go there in my city. I have to take this fucking marsrutka thing, this mini bus that is dog shit, and I hate my life. So yeah, you know, it varies depending on the city, but yeah, if you're talking about my city, then it's terrible when I want to die. Is Russia really as dangerous as people think it is? Like, for example, is it not safe to walk around at night in most of the major cities? I would say just avoid places like bars and stuff like that, because Russians get really belligerent when they're drunk. Clubs and bars and stuff like that. Overall, it's kind of safe, but you know, it really depends on the city and the neighborhood. Generally, if you're in a more affluent neighborhood, then you're gonna be fine. If you're in a more poorer neighborhood, more on the outskirts of the city, like where I live, for example, then bra moments might occur. I wouldn't say it's really safe, but you're definitely not gonna get shot. You might get fucked up, but that's about it. That's all that's gonna happen to you, so most of the time you'll be fine. Just you know, make sure to have some pepper spray with you. But yeah guys, I guess that is going to be pretty much it for today's video. I answered a bunch of your questions. Make sure to follow my Twitter, by the way, and I'll post some of that stuff again, and you could ask me a question then. Maybe your question makes to one of these videos. Hopefully this series would actually continue. I hope you guys did enjoy this sort of new video format today. If you guys did enjoy it, please make sure to slap the like button on this video as well, guys. If you want to support my channel, down below, if you want to support me, make sure to go to the video description, check out my Patreon link down there, donate to it, it helps me out a lot, truly. And yeah guys, that is going to be pretty much it for today's video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.